Welcome, everyone, and welcome again to Honoring Your Truth. You're going to hear in this installment today from a couple, and I'll put it to you this way. Have you ever or know of anyone who's ever been in a relationship and everybody is telling you or them they need to get out because the person that they are attached to is not good for them. But yet, they believe that God wants them to stay in that relationship. Yeah, it's a pretty tough situation. But you're going to hear how God worked all of that out. So I now present to you none other than Minister William Pratts and his wife, Toni.
So we met in 1982, and we met through a friend. My friend introduced me to Steph. She was going with his cousin, and we were invited to a football game. So we were to meet at the football game. And it was crazy because I had family pictures that day. My parents didn't know because they were strict. So I kind of had to say I was going to my friend's house in order to meet Steph. So we didn't meet at the football game because I couldn't get away. So we ended up meeting at McDonald's. And what attracted me to Steph is he was really nice looking, like he is now. And I was really attracted to his physical appearance. We had been talking on the phone before then, and he was funny. I liked the fact that he had a big family, but when I saw him, that kind of sealed the deal for me. I snuck out. Yes, I snuck out, and actually, that was the first time. I was 15. That was the first time I ever got a beating.
Oh, they found out.
They found out.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I was a little bit older, and when they found out, it wasn't too cool because I believe Kim was the one who ratted us out and said, that, "Oh, he got a car and everything." But I remember, I think it was more so it was me not getting to the game on time because you was at the game. But it was after the game that we had plans to go hang out and stuff. And when we met at the McDonald's, because that's where everybody went after the sporting events during that time. They always met at the McDonald's on West Street. And I tried to be all cool and stuff, so I went to the McDonald's. I seen her, and then I went over to the Wendy's. I don't even eat Wendy's. I was just seeing what was going to happen, and she came over following me. So I knew right then, I was like, oh, maybe so. So that's when we really started. It was something about Toni, like right away, that attracted me to her. I really couldn't put my hand on it then, but I liked the way she looked. She was small, she was petite, she was like really the fit for me. And I just fell for her, man, and we went running ever since. When I knew she was really the one was when I was getting high and stuff at an early age throughout high school. Probably started doing junior high, but by the time I got to high school, I was really smoking a lot of weed and stuff. And I started going through different things. I got busted with some marijuana in the ninth grade, and I ended up going to um, the Center for Learning and obedience school or whatever it was they sent me to, and she just really stuck in there through my hardships. And like when I started becoming more addicted on drugs and stuff, it was like she like wouldn't give up on me. It was like when I was at the point of giving up on myself and my family was telling her to leave and stuff, and she just stuck it out. And I knew then that it was something special about her, just the unconditional love at an early age that I was seeing. I grew up in a loving family, but this was a different type of love outside the family love. So I was really attracted to that. I was attracted to her really being there for me, even though I really continued to screw up, and she stuck it out and stuck it out, and it just really helped build my faith. So yeah. I had a brother-in-law that basically grew crops and whatnot, and I used to run with him. When I say run, I mean jogging, and he was like this like specimen of not an athlete, but he just always conditioned himself with running and staying in the gym. But he liked smoking his weed, and I was younger than him, and I ended up smoking with him one day, and it was like recreational, and it was scary first, and then it was really fun. It was recreational, but it was like I think I became addicted right then because I just kept wanting more and more. So it was just the recreational piece of it first, and then I think it just moved into really becoming dependent on it because I moved and escalated to different drugs. So I escalated from smoking marijuana. I believe I've got to that like what they call burnout stage where it really wasn't doing much for me. And it's like with that part of demonic force, for lack of better words, maybe. Excuse me. I believe that I ran into other people that was doing different things, and they was like, "Man, you just wasting the weed. You need to put some coke on it." So I started lacing marijuana with cocaine, and then that got old, so I was drinking, smoking weed, lacing marijuana with cocaine, and then I started smoking hash, and hash led me to smoking PCP and crack cocaine, which was my demon of all demons. Crack cocaine just really took me over the edge. But PCP took me to a place where I was in a lot of stages of hallucinogenics. And it was a lot of blackout stages that I didn't remember anything like the night before, what I had did. And people would tell me. And I remember being high on PCP and my I was driving my little two-seater pickup truck, and I had an accident. I ran over top a guy on a motorcycle right over in Eastport neighborhood. I still know it clear as the day, Van Buren Street, and I was working for Mature and Poultry, a chicken store, and I ran over top the guy on the motorcycle and kept going, didn't never stop because I didn't even know I had ran over him, and then from there, I ran in the back of a lady sitting at Hilltop and Forest Drive, if you're familiar where that is, where you come across Spa Road. And I ran in the back of her. I don't remember doing any of it. And people just told me what had happened. And they said I backed up several times and just kept smashing in the back of the lady. So then I went down and was going down to Bywaters because I don't know whether because I was spoiled, I was the only boy, and they always gave me everything I wanted. So if it wasn't my way, it was no way. So not only the drugs, but it was like I had a thing for women. So I was going down to Bywater. Toni lived over on Tyler Avenue, and I was going to Bywater and to see another female that I was dealing with, and they said I was going down Bywater on the wrong side of the road and running people off the road. And when I got to Bywater in the first court, I parked my truck and I ran in the house, and I thought I was going in her house, but I made a mistake and went into the people's house next door to her and told them planes was landing and Russia was dropping bombs, and they ran out the house and left the house to me, which make a lot of good sense, really. So it was just chaotic, man. And my sister and them, I remember them picking me up, and I tried climbing out the rooftop of I think it was a Subaru they had at the time. I was trying to climb out the rooftop and open the doors, and they was trying to get me home. And I got home, and my mom was always like, that Step didn't do it. My son wouldn't do this. My son wouldn't do that. So that made it easier for me to just keep doing the things I was doing. And I got home, and my dad was like, "What did you do, Step? What did you do now?" And I said, I didn't do anything." And next thing I knew, they said the police was coming to get me. We had already had Shayla at that time, and the police was coming down the hill, and we lived like back on a farm, like 6/10 of a mile off the road. And I remember seeing the police coming down the hill, those state police and those city police, and I got on top of our roof with the gun and was like, "Look, I'm not going to jail." And my sister Sammy pulled me back in off of the roof and got the gun from me. And when the police got there, it was a little state trooper and a city cop, and because everything had happened in Annapolis. And I told him, I said, "Look, I'll make a deal with you guys. You put down your guns, you can keep your stick. And if I beat you, you don't take me to jail." And they looked at me like, "Man, I will mash you up." And I just had all of these thoughts going through my mind as they was transporting me back to Annapolis in the police car. And it didn't make it easier because my father worked for Senator Langford, and he had a lot of connects, and I always got out of trouble, and I was facing like 36 points on my license. And we went before the judge. My father, the senator, he knew all the judges. So we ended up getting it down to 12 points. And my lawyer said, "The best thing for you to do is go to a treatment center if you want to get out of trouble." So I took him up on it, and I left and went to a 28-day rehab in Meadows Recovery Center, and stayed there for 28 days. And I remember after being there for 2 weeks, this counselor looked me in my face and he said, "Change or die." And he walked out my face. That was all he said to me. And I had a spiritual encounter that night when I went back to my room, and I prayed because I was always raised in the church. I just wasn't never applied myself. And I prayed, man, and I received Christ really, I think, for the first time that night. And that's when I realized I got changed. And I left the rehab and stayed clean for 5 years, and got a call. My brother-in-law, who introduced me to marijuana, had got killed in New York because he was in the Coast Guard. And I started smoking cigarettes again. I started smoking weed again. And I stayed back out again for about a year on the crack cocaine run, crawling around on carpet, like looking for crack pieces when I was out of money and stuff. It was demonic, man. It was just a rough road. And Toni stayed by me the whole time, like just loved me when I wasn't loving myself. And I always tell people she was the first real Jesus that I ever saw. Like that unconditional love just really showed me that Jesus was real, and love is really about unconditional. Um, it was just a tough run, man, and I'm just so grateful God got me to this point where I am at today to give Him glory.
So, so when I first met Step, when they said when you meet somebody I knew when I met Step he was going to be my husband. So I think I had a foundation with Christ because I was always in church. I was an Episcopalian. So I lived with my grandparents. Well, I didn't live with my grandparents. I was always with my grandparents all the time. And they were Episcopalians. They went to St. Mary's Church. And that's where I went. The only thing I liked about it was the donuts and the juice, to be honest with you, because I didn't understand it. But when I went home, sometimes I would go to Asbury Church. So we would do the Sunday school, we would do the Bible study. But what made me stay was watching my mom as I was growing up. Because it wasn't the best situation in our home. But no matter what, she made it work. And I watched her. And I understood that when you love somebody, you put up with stuff. And I always had that rooted in me. So dealing with him, I knew that from that foundation that was laid, that I had to stay too, because love wasn't always pretty. So
Mm-hmm.
that was in my mindset. So even when he was going through, even when he was doing everything, I had Shayla by this time. So I got pregnant actually at 15. I got pregnant at 15. I got an abortion. And then I got pregnant again at 16. And that's when I had Shayla. But what Step brought to me was something that, although my dad was in the house back then, my dad was a provider. So he was always gone to work. So I think I looked more at Step as a protector, because when I first met him, he wasn't into all of this. He wasn't doing all this. He was doing weed and stuff, but he wasn't doing all that. And then when I met his family, in the sense of family, oh my God, when I first met his family, it was like, you're going to meet my family tonight. And I go in the living room and it's like 25 people. And I'm like, wow, what is this? What is this? And I was like, so what made me stay, I think, was love. Love made me stay in the midst of the womanizing. And it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot of women. It was a lot of chaos. And I think putting my daughter, Shayla, because I remember the incident that Step was talking about. When the police came, she was standing on the steps. And the police put handcuffs on him, and she was right there. And she was like, are they going to wrap my father up and take him away? And something clicked in me then, and I was like, what am I doing? I said, because this isn't helping her. But yet, even though I knew it wasn't helping her, my mindset wasn't in the right place at that time, at 16 or 17, to get out. I was just trying to survive. I was in high school. It was my last year. And I got this baby. And my mom told me, she said, look, you having a baby, that's your baby. I'm not taking care of it, not doing none of that. That's your baby. And I can remember Shayla had colic for 6 months. And this baby stayed up. I don't think she ever went to sleep. And I had to get up at 6 o'clock for school. And I can remember one day, I told my mom, I said, look, if you don't come and get this baby, I'm going to kill her and I'm going to kill myself. I was spent at that time. I had him I was dealing with. I had her I was dealing with. But the good thing that I had was family, because his family took over. My sister was like her mother, because she babysat while I went to school and everything. And I can remember praying to God, and I was like, is this really the life you got for me? I know you said this the one for me, but this what you got for me? And I can remember just embracing the good times, because it was good times. I could see the potential in him. He always worked. He was a functional addict. Always worked. Ain't never had a job. But the money was going to the drugs. So his mom and my family was supporting us. But it came a time where I had lost myself. I was getting up 3 o'clock in the morning. By then, I probably had PJ and all of them. I was getting up at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, going to try to find him because he wasn't home. He would come home and he would take the car, and I'm getting up looking for the car. I don't know where the car is. He done wrapped the car around a light pole where we lived at. And I mean, it was dysfunctional to the point that I couldn't even sleep. And now that I look at everything that I went through and the reflux that I have now, it's correlated with all of that. But the turning point was Step had it was always promises.
Mm.
I'm going to get better, right? And I would believe it, because things would get better for a couple of days, a couple of weeks. And I'm like, oh my God, something going to change. And I'm like, we got these 3 kids, and I know I need to keep us together, because I can't raise them by myself. And I don't want them to be without their father, but is it worse with them being with their father like this? God, what am I supposed to do? 'Cause I don't know. His parents telling him, and I mean, all of his family, like, you stupid. You need to leave that fool. And I'm like, but I can't leave him. And they was like, you losing, you about stupid. I mean, not just his family, but everybody was telling me. So I felt so alone. And I'm like, daggone, what am I going to do? And finally, I just started, I don't know what happened. Yes, I did. I went to Narnon. Narnon, Step was in treatment. And I was like, man, he getting himself together. And I feel like I'm still just as sick as he is because my behaviors didn't change. So I was still enabling. I was still doing everything that I did to help him stay in his addiction. But I couldn't understand that I didn't have a problem. I ain't pick up no drugs. I didn't pick up no drugs. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't fooling around. I was doing everything that I should have been doing. So God, why are you allowing this to happen to me? And I can remember somebody was like, well, you should go and get yourself some help. And I was resentful as hell. Let's just be real. What do I need help for? Ain't nothing wrong with me. It's him. That's what's the problem. And I can remember going into Narnon. That's what it was called. Narcotics Anonymous. But it was for the families of the people who abuse drugs. And I went in that place. And, you know, I heard it was a lot of older people, and I heard them in there talking about how they enable their family members and how they did this and how they did that. And I'm like, well, I ain't do none of that, what y'all did. I ain't spent $1,000 because I had it. And matter of fact, I don't even need to be here because y'all sick and I'm not sick. And, you know, they were telling me, no, you are sick and you need some help. And until you get some help for yourself, this isn't going to work. Well, I left out of there that day because y'all weren't going to tell me I was sick and I wasn't sick. And something prompted me to go back. And when I went back, I listened. And I heard me. And I saw me in the midst of all that they were talking about. And I decided that I was going to listen. I was going to keep coming back. And I was going to apply what I learned. And I went home. I think it was probably about the third or fourth time I went there. And I was trying to get an apartment because I was living with Step and his family. And I was trying to get an apartment. And he didn't know it. But my apartment finally came through. And God said, it's time. You done put up with enough. He said, if he can't change, you out. And I went to Step and I said, look, I had enough. I said, I done beat myself up enough. I done pour all of me into you and I done lost me. And it's time for me to find me again. And I said, if you don't get yourself together, by the time this apartment come through, you staying here because you're not going with us. And it was instantly. Things started changing. I'm like, that's all it took. Step stopped getting high. Step started to interact with the family. I mean, and I was reserved. I was kind of like, yeah, I seen this before. Is he doing this just to try to get in? And you know, I was connecting with God, and I'm like, Lord, I don't know what to do because you told me don't take him if he like that, but he getting himself together. And I thought about God, and he don't give us the second chance, but he gives a third, a fourth, infinity chances. And I said, if I'm serving Christ and I'm in the image of him, I gotta be like him. And so I said, okay, all right, you've been clean for a few months. I'm going to take a chance. He stayed clean ever since. And here we are. And here we are. It was hell. It was hell. I felt like we lived hell on earth. But God delivered us. He got us to this point. And it wasn't anybody. It wasn't a doorpost. It wasn't a piece of paper. It was Christ that got us to this point. Because had it not been for him, I wouldn't be where I am. And we wouldn't be where we were.
The enabling piece, what people don't understand, is that's what the addict drive off of. And that's what I was driving off of. But when she put stipulations in place and boundaries, that was something that I had never seen before because I didn't have any boundaries growing up in the family I was in. I was the only boy. My sisters spoiled me. My mom spoiled me. My dad spoiled me. Everybody spoiled me and gave me what I wanted. And when I heard that, and I knew what Toni had been through with me, and I already knew that she loved me. Like I said, I knew that love was unconditional outside of my family that I hadn't seen before. And I said, well, guess what? As good as drugs feel to me, I'm not losing her. And I didn't want to lose my family. I was always a family person. I grew up in a big family, a loving family. And I said the last thing I'm gonna do is lose my family for my selfishness and stuff. So that's when I was like, look, I'm going. Yeah. And I meant it. I knew Toni would like take me back all the time. So when she didn't want me to go different places because she knew what was gonna happen if I went out, I was gonna get high and maybe not come home or come home and don't remember anything. And I was like, I would do things just to make her mad, and she would say stuff to me, and that was my excuse. And then it was her fault. Like, and it gave me the excuse to go ahead and go out. Yeah, so.
Enabling is a form of control.
Mhm.
So I didn't know that then, but it is a form of control. So when I would tell him do something and he wouldn't do it, I would hold that against him. And I used to call his job when he got high and couldn't go to work. I used to make excuses for him with his family. You know, when he did something and I know he wasn't supposed to do it, I used to make excuses with them. I used to always have his back in a way that I was doing things for him that he should have been doing for himself. And I believe that contributed it to keeping him in that cycle for so long by us always carrying the weight of his responsibility.
And I think that was it. It was like, man, you got my back. She got my back at my worstest times. I mean, horrible things we went through, but if she stuck it out then, I knew if I changed my life, it was a wrap. I knew we would still have struggles and hang-ups and stuff because that's relationship. I knew that at an early age with seeing my family and stuff and my sisters dealing with other males and stuff. But I knew from what she gave me in all of that mess, I knew it was a wrap if I got myself together. I knew that I was the common denominator in the whole piece for us really like making it.
I think what really helped was him being consistent, being where he was when he was supposed to. If I needed to pick up the phone or if I needed to drop by, just affording me the opportunity to have him say, I'm going to be somewhere, and he was there. Um, Giving me his phone to be able to open up when I needed to. Um, saying what he was going to do and actually doing it consistently. And that built a lot of trust up. And it sometimes, I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes I still be like, look,
Absolutely.
sometimes it depends because you get triggers. You get things right in little shadows because that's what the enemy like to do. He's accuser of the brother. And hey, remember when he used to, right? Those seeds, it's always going to be in your subconscious. And something any day will click it off. But I have the tools now to be able to work through it where I didn't first. You know, and if something happened, I'd be like, all right, I'm feeling a certain way. I can communicate that now. Look, I'm feeling a little uneasy. I need some reassuring. And it took a long time. And like I say, it don't automatically go away. Life is life. It's still in your subconscious. Whether people want to admit it or not, it's still in your subconscious. And it still comes up. And I still have dreams sometimes. But I'm connected to the Lord now in a way that I can communicate, and I know how he talks to me, and I know how he tells me what I need to do, and he reassures me and he sends me signs. So when I was going through it by myself, now I don't have to go through it by myself. I can see things. He shows me things before they even happened. So when I'm really in a state and I really need the Lord, I'm telling you, he will show me the whole picture. And I've come to step before and I'm like, you might as well tell the truth because I already know. So just the relationship that I was able to build over that time, because not trusting him messed up my trust with God. Because I'm like, you want me trust this man that you telling me go with? And I don't even trust you right now. Because you let this happen to me. Because that's what I felt like. You did it. You allowed it to happen. Because guess what? Don't nothing happen that you don't allow. And that's how I talk to God. You allowed it. Because Satan came to you and asked you, could he do certain stuff, and you allowed it. And now you want me to trust you. It took a long time for me to even build my trust back up with God. And over the years, and it took a long time, but over the years, I built that trust back up with God. And I'm telling you right now, ain't nothing gonna turn me back. Nothing. Because if he could have got me out of this mess, man, I used to fight every chick. I'm telling you, I would roll up on them. I would take Shayla with me. Shayla was a baby. I'm like, look, we rolling out. You know, and I look now at how dysfunctional that was. But it's awesome because that's why I can speak on so many things. Because sometimes people have to go to school and learn it. Sometimes people have to go to support groups and learn it. But every experience that I fight for today, I have physically gone through it myself. Yes.
That's praise God.
Yes.
This is for both of you. We know a lot of people are going to hear this. And not only on the day that it's actually broadcast, but one thing about when you put anything out on the internet, it's out there forever. So there may be someone who will see it 2 months from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. But and Toni, just for you to speak to the woman, and all I think you speak to the man, to the woman who may be listening to this, she may be the 15-year-old, or she may be the 30-something-year-old, whoever. What would you say to her based off of your experience? What advice would you give her right now if she found herself in the same situation that you were in? The difference is you were in Christ.
For both of them, I would say get out. And I would say get out because you need to find yourself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. And if I had to tell you something after all that I went through, it would be to get out, to reset, to find out and learn who you are and what you want and values you have. If you don't have a family member that you can connect with and you can talk to, find somebody. Find God in the little things. Because we always look for this big thing, this big encounter. But find him in the little things that you like, that you connect with. Start finding out who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you want, what you don't want, what your future is going to look like. Instead of me looking at what my future was going to look like and what I wanted, I was conditioned to see what everybody else wanted and not what I wanted instead of putting me first. So I would say put you first. In any deficits that you don't know, find a trusted friend, somebody that you can talk to, a trusted family member who can guide you in a way that where you need to go and start to connect with God. I'm telling you, start to connect with God in any way you can, the little things. Just start to listen to music. Some people connect with God through music. Start picking up a Bible. However, start looking at people who know Christ and connect with them. But I'm telling you, the thing that you would need to do at this point is find out who you are first. Don't give you away until you know without a shadow of a doubt who you are.
So if it was really me, I would definitely tell the young person at my age that really think about what you're doing before you do it, and really try to search in the love for yourself first, because all of the love that I had applied to my life and around me and the people was loving me, I don't know if I really can honestly say that I really, really loved myself and who I was. I always had this like hang up with not being named after my dad and being named after my grandfather and being the only boy. I always had this hang up with that, and I always kept it to myself. And they gave me reasons why, because of my sister Samantha that was kind of named after him. I was like, yeah, but I'm the only boy. Y'all kept going to get me, and then you got me, I'm not named after my father. So I had some resentments about that. So I would say, really find out, like Toni was saying, find out who you are and really what you want in life. And if you do end up having kids at an early age, like I did, I would tell you to really think about your kids more and what it's going to look like for them and how it's really going to affect them. Because I had no idea, like some of the things that I see in my girls. My boys turned out pretty decent, but my girls done been through some struggles, but that's their testimony to tell. Um, I will share because we are honest and open book, and all of us are transparent about our lives, that both of them are bipolar. And I often think and take responsibility sometime and feel like that was my fault, by some of the things they witnessed and seen, with like how I treated their mom and how they deal with men today. So I would really say to the young guys coming now, if you have kids, um, I would say try not to, and do it the right way. Don't do it in reverse like how me and Toni did it, because it's complicated and it's a lot of pain that you pass on to your kids that you don't even realize how you're hurting them, and then they have to grow up and try to figure out how to get out of the stuff that really you helped them get into. Because I always tell people, when I see my girls growing up, a lot of times it's like watching myself grow up all over again and trying to correct myself, because that's what I be trying to do with them. It's like I be trying to correct my wrong, which I know I can't because it's gone. But I just try to love them where they are right now and be the best example I can be now. So I would say the most vital part to me is, with the kids piece, is think about them. Think about how this thing will affect them. And where I am today, with how much I love Christ, and I've been angry with him before, but Toni really showed me who Christ really was. And there's nobody greater that can help you through any circumstance, whether it's crawling on the floor, smoking crack, doing drugs, doing any of that stuff. He is a true deliverer and a healer. And I'm so grateful for him. I'm so grateful for Toni putting up with me. But I would say to the young fella that, like, that don't mean that your story gonna turn out like my my story and Toni's story. Because I really believe if it wasn't for Toni and Christ in my life, I know I would be dead. I know it without a shadow of a doubt.
Talk to us about My Sister's Keeper. How did that come to you, Toni? And then, of course, Steph, we want to hear what's happening with the brothers. And I know it's just launched. It's like going to the
Third core.
So, can we just share? Can you just share about that?
So MSK stands for My Sister's Keeper, and MBK stands for My Brother's Keeper. So MSK actually was birthed out of a dream. Um, I always tell people God put Noah to sleep, gave him some instructions on what to do with the boat to save some people. And that's the same thing he did with me with MSK. I was to help rebuild human infrastructure. And I call human infrastructure people. You know, we often forget about people. But his idea was to help rebuild human infrastructure because he knew that we were broken from family trauma, from root trauma, from generational trauma, from self trauma. And what MSK is birthed on is to help women deal with unresolved trauma and move from dependency to self-sufficiency, whatever that looks like for them. And on their journey, what's significant in this is on their journey, they won't do it alone. Because I always thought back when I was 15, I had nobody to really talk to that I could trust. That when I got in trouble that I could really go to, that would actually stay there and walk through it with me. So when MSK was birthed, the vital point of MSK are the guiders. We call them guiders, they're mentors. They will walk with the women the whole 8 weeks that they're in this program. And that has been the factor that has compelled women to catapult themselves in 8 weeks to change, to get help, to go to mental health therapy at 62, to go back to school at 25, to actually deal with the molestations at 18, to say, you know what, I got a life and I'm going to live it. This program that God has birthed, because he just used me as the vessel, has made a way for women to say, you know what, I am worthy, I am worth it, and I'm going to put in the work that it takes to get there. And it was never about women. It was always about family. Because we as a family went through. I didn't go through. Steph didn't go through because it affected my whole family. So MSK is not just about the women, because now we have a men portion, a component, and we will have a children's component, because we can't heal without our husbands or our boyfriends or our family members healing, because just like Step got fixed and I went back into a healthy environment as a dysfunctional person and it messed everything up again. So we have to heal in real time together so that we can combat this thing that we're seeing now. So that's what this is all about, people building.
Yeah, so like you mentioned desire, and that's exactly how desire was birthed. It was birthed through a dream. I had a dream, and I seen people sitting in chairs, and I seen people like getting up out of chairs and walking. So I shared it with Toni, and we came to you, Pastor K, and talked about starting a dependency and codependency group. And what God was showing me in the dream was like the percentages of people who went to rehab and came out. They used to do this thing when you would sit down. They would say, look to the person to your left and look to the person to the right. Only one of y'all gonna make it. The percentages of people who stayed in recovery or recovered from a hopeless and helpless state of mind was just like 3%. And what God was showing me was like, it was because we focused on the individual. We focused on the addict. We focused on the one that mainly had the problem. And when that person started getting better, they went back to that same dysfunctional system, that same dysfunctional environment where people that hadn't got help like Toni did with Non and Al-Anon, and realized that enabling piece. And that's when we started Desire. And it was really to restore families. And when the pandemic hit, Desire kind of faded off. And I remember Pastor K coming to me and saying, Step, what about doing Desire like virtually? And I'm like, Pastor K, I ain't about that virtual thing. That virtual thing be killing me. It's killing me with church. I'm like, I have a hard time worshiping with this virtual thing from home and stuff. And I considered it and stuff and really thought about it. And then that's when Toni, I guess God said, all right, you want to play games? That's how he do with us men, man. When we don't want to keep it rolling, the women step right up. And I think that's when he spoke to Toni, and she started it in the midst of the pandemic and MSK and stuff. And it's kind of that same pattern of what God had called us together as a family. And the brothers now with MBK, man, is like an environment that's really blew my mind, because I've always been transparent, open about my life, like, 'cause I always felt like I got two tattoos. One with me and Toni got together on our wrist, and I got one other tattoo on my shoulder that said only God can judge me with broken handcuffs. And I think I really stick to that because I mean, I really, at the end of the day, I care what people think about me. But at the end of the road, I realized that only God can put me in heaven or hell. So I tell people about my life so that it can help somebody else. And I think by that atmosphere with the men, with me opening up and being transparent, they're like, oh, men do this? And it just like breaks this barrier that men have, like, 'cause I cry. I'm a man, I cry, and I'll man up in a minute and be like, oh, you want to test it? You know, and I think just the atmosphere that God, how he uses me as a vessel to just like break down some of those things that Pastor Ricky talked about when he came, the lies that people done told us and how they shaped us, that portion that he does for MBK, and how he really shows us like, hey, men don't cry. All of those things we've been told and found out that it really was a lie or just wasn't truth. You know, and to really be able to tear down those barriers and set an atmosphere, man. I mean, the testimony about my one man that like social anxiety and now he has a job for the first time in life. It's just totally amazing what God can do if you just allow him to use you as a vessel. And I get nervous. Don't get it twisted. I get nervous, but I jump out there and I be like, all right, God, you said do it. I'm going to just go ahead and do it. And it's just amazing just seeing the transformation. But it's not only watching the transformation and how much MBK is starting to help men, young men, and the phone ringing, men just wanting to join. Is this thing really is blessing me, man? It's really helping me to continue to want to love on love on myself and love on other men and do what God has called me to do. You know, because all of us want to see some fruits. You know, if we're doing the work God called us to and we're not really seeing anything behind it, we start veering away from it and start questioning God, like, did you really call me to this? Because there ain't much happening. So I'm just grateful, man, that the men are receptive and the guiders, man, that the mentors that we have, just being committed, being committed and communicating with each other is just totally amazing.
As we come to kind of wrapping this up, your story is amazing. Um, it's hopeful. It's inspiring. It's um, it's really just telling people. It's just really shows people how God can be in your difficult days and face it seems like He's not there or not around, but yet He has His plan.
Hmm.
I mean, you look at you guys, 15. I would have, yes, if you been my daughter, yes, we would have been rocking and rolling. Your mom and dad was right when they got you. I would have done the same thing. But, and like I told you before, I had been passing them. I told you, you need to lay down until they get themselves together. You know, but at the end of the day, you see God's hand, and not that it was, not that God put you into
Hmm.
a situation. He worked with your choices, but
Yeah,
still got you to
that's
his
good.
destiny and where he needed to go, and
Wow.
everything that you went through. Because you know, you use the phrase God is an economist.
Yeah, he
He took
used that
all of your
phrase.
stuff,
He used broken pieces.
all of your stuff,
Yes.
to be a healer to men and women, and that is awesome. So as we wrap, this our series is called Honoring Your Truth. What does honoring your truth mean?
Who honor my truth means being boldly who I am. The good, the bad, the ugly, the indifference. You might see me any given day operating in a different space, in a different light. Um, honoring my truth mean being truly who God created me to be. I didn't know who He created me to be, but as I gotten to this point, I know. So when you see me being bold, when you see me being in your face, it's not because um, I would say that um, I'm being bullying, but he needed to be in my face when he wasn't in my face. And I didn't allow him to let that part of me come out. But now I always think about my truth is that in the scripture is that the kingdom suffers violence and the violent take it by force. I don't have no time for games. So when people look at me, they like, oh damn, he'll kick them Toni. My truth is that I am who I am. I'm not ashamed of who I am anymore because I used to be. I used to be pissed with God because I'm boisterous, because I'm loud, because I use my voice. I used to be mad about that. But now it's changing lives. And I don't take it for granted anymore. I don't not like me being like this anymore. And my truth is I'm just who I am. And I'm thankful that God created me to be this way.
Living out my truth for me is similar to what Toni was saying, but really just like accepting it, taking the responsibility of the part I played. And I always use the scripture in Revelations that say we overcome the adversary, the devil, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And I believe that if I can tell my story and be true to what my life caused and what my life is today, I believe it really shows people that there is hope in the worst of worst situations. And I want people to know, not for me to get any glory, but for God to show his transforming and deliverance power. That look, man, I was like this one day, but God did this, not Step. God did this with the help of Toni, sticking it out through the rough times. But just the amazing transformation of God, just giving somebody else hope through my testimony. That's why I know I have to live out my truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And guess what? Life still can be challenging, you know, because this relationship thing, you got to constantly be in good communication with each other. Because I feel like sometimes, excuse me, the longer we're in relationship, we start taking for granted. Oh, I thought you was this. I thought we still have to communicate well to have a healthy and wholesome relationship. And that's what I want my kids to see now. I want them to see that now and be able to relate it to how it used to be and get some hope from it and say, man, if God did what he did, what I seen with my mom and dad, I know he can do it for us too. So,
That's awesome.
thank
Thank you, guys.
you. Thank you.
For sharing the truth. Thank you for sharing your heart, your passion. And most of all, thank you for hearing God's voice and following it, but you didn't have to, but you did. And for all that you are doing in the community, making a change one person at a time, changing a family one person at a time. So awesome work, and God is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.